Hey folks, welcome to the channel. I am Technivorous, and this is my Creality Ender 3 V2. Today we're going to be taking a look at the software that comes on the USB stick included when you buy this printer, as well as a few other models you might not know existed because they don't come pre-sliced, but I assure you they are there on that USB stick. So stick around, we're going to take a look at how to use Creality Slicer, the software included with the Ender 3 V2, in junction with your printer. The Technivorous channel is brought to you by these fine Patreon supporters. Alright, so here we are. This is Creality Slicer 4.2, and I have done a video on Creality Slicer since it was at about 1.7. I don't know if that's, I think it was 1.78. I'm not sure, don't quote me on that. But basically what this is a Cura port, and you can see from the background that it is quite Cura themed. It's just a specific theme for Cura with some of the graphics changed that they ship with these printers from Creality. So when you open it up, you're going to get this welcome screen. Let's go ahead and hit the get started button, and there is a user agreement here. So basically it's saying that using this software, they're not liable for you voiding your warranty or anything like that. So this is going to show you what's new in Creality Slicer, and this is showing you the updates since the last version. So looks like there's quite a few of them. AMF file compatibility, slice button delay, layer view line type, a lot of stuff that's basically already there in Cura. Cura is on version 4.7.1. So this is a little bit behind, but they like to wait until the features are a little bit more proven, because you'll notice in that list we just skipped past, there aren't a lot of bug fixes. They wait until the feature is proven and then they pull it into their version, and it tends to work a little bit more properly, I guess you should say. So telling us that we are going to send them data. Doesn't contain any personal information. That's fine by me. And now it's going to ask me to add a printer. So we have an option for the Ender 3, the Ender 3 Pro, the Ender 3 3S. So I'm going to click on this one, and we are going to call this the Ender 3 V2 and hit next. Maybe. So it's taking a minute because it's setting it all up and everything. And I am noticing that when I look down here, thank you for your use. Let's fly in the world of 3D printing. Finish. Okay, so configuration errors. Your configuration seems to be corrupt. Something seems to be wrong with the following profiles. Alright, before we can actually do anything with the software, we are going to need a model for you to print. So when we're working with 3D printing, the most common type of file type is what's known as an STL, and that is short for stereolithography mesh. Basically a 3D object that is easy for the slicer to interpret and then generate a G-code from. Now when you hear the term G-code, G-code is what the output file is going to be from the slicer. We'll get into that a little bit more in a minute. But this is myminifactory.com. It is spelled M-Y-M-I-N-I factory.com, and basically you can get a ton of models here. They have a bunch of free models as well as paid models also, and the paid models are great because you can support your favorite artists. There are people putting out great things all of the time, and get models that other people don't really have unless they are also supporting that artist. The free models are where it's really at, because there are a ton of them and you can print some really cool stuff, as well as customizing certain things and making them unique. For now, we're going to jump over to another site. This is Thingiverse.com. That's Thingiverse.com. And I have found this awesome Yoda model. I'll show you exactly where I got it here and go through the process. So Thingiverse.com, and you can see this cute little baby Yoda. It says free sample. If you click on it, you'll see a larger picture as well as some pictures of prints and things like that. There is a coin in this one to give you an idea of what the scale is, and they're generally pretty well documented. A lot of people bash on Thingiverse because once in a while it crashes, but you have to realize that it has so many models in its repository that it's pretty amazing that people can still actually add anything, and they haven't run out of room on the internet yet. All you got to do is click download files, and a little box will pop up down here Then you go ahead and open that folder, and you'll need to unzip the file. Now I have mine right here, so I'm going to go ahead and we'll pop Creality Slicer up right here, and we will grab open folder. Open folder. What is going on? Okay, let's try this. There we go. I don't know what the deal was. So basically with an STL, it's just drag and drop. So it is going to take a minute to load in here, and should pop up any second with my model. There it is. And you can see it is a cute little baby Yoda. Now, at this point, there are a few things you want to go over with your model before you start printing. The first one is orientation. This one obviously is meant to be printed standing as it is because it has a big base on the bottom, and it's a nice flat spot to orient your printer. But there are a couple other things you might want to look out for. When you're looking at the slicer here, these red areas are places known as overhangs, and those overhangs are places that are going to need what's called support. And support is basically extra plastic. It's going to build up underneath your model so that when it gets to this point right here, it's not trying to print an arm in thin air. It's got a little bit of plastic underneath it to build on. The support's pretty much easily removable with different options for how it interfaces with the model to leave less of a mark or do different things, basically. So we're going to take a look at a couple of the first few things, but we will get the support option. We're just going to go right through the list here. So the first one is quality, and this is going to determine how good your model looks in theory. The lower the layer height, which is this first option here, the better the model is going to look because you're not going to notice those visible lines. The larger the layer height, the rougher it's going to look because the lines are going to be more visible to the eye, and it'll require more sanding and post-processing or finishing after it's done printing. That said, there are advantages to using both a small and a larger layer height. So with the larger layer height, you get the model printed in a faster speed. So that's great for prototyping or rough drafting objects, or making something if you need it really, really quickly to just hold out for a few minutes. The flip side of that is the lower layer height is going to increase your time significantly, but like I said, you're going to get a more polished, finished product at the end of the day. So 0.2 is a pretty standard. It is right in the middle. I'm going to leave it at 0.2 because that's a pretty good place to start. The initial layer height is exactly what it sounds like. It's the layer height of the first layer, and in this case I'm going to leave it the same, although if you do change it, you can increase it slightly above what the layer height is just to get a little bit better adhesion. Basically, when you're calculating your layer heights, you want it to be a multiple of 0.4. So 0.2 is okay, or 0.24 is okay, or 0.28, or 0.16, 0.12. You get the gist. Then we're going to roll down to shell. The shell is the outer perimeter of the model. I'm going to hit the slice button on this just so I can kind of show you what some of these settings mean. But the shell is the outer perimeter of the model, and that is basically going to be 3 layers thick as determined by this number right here. The more shell layers you have, the more solid an object will feel, but it also uses more filament as well. The rest of the model is going to be comprised of infill. So the inside, and you'll see in just a moment here when we zoom in on the preview, that the inside is going to be a pattern instead of being 100% solid, and you can change the density of the infill right here. I'm going to fill 20% of this model with a cubic pattern, and that works for me. 15 to 20% is pretty good. There are other patterns to choose from, and you will note the difference after looking at it when it's sliced. It says it's sliced here, so let's jump over to preview mode. Info percentage will leave the same. I notice I'm not adjusting 90% of these settings. I'm just pointing out the top setting or two under each category because those are the main things you need to be aware of, and right off the bat, using PLA with this machine, you shouldn't really need to change too much. I've now reached the material category, and this is something that you are going to want to take a look at. So when you're choosing your material temperature, generally on the box of filament or on the spool somewhere, it will give you a recommended printing temperature. The stuff I'm using is best at 210, so we're going to set it to 210. And sometimes there's a recommended bed temperature as well, so you'll plug that in here. If not, go ahead and leave it at 60. If you're using PLA, feel free to turn it down to 55 or 50. You don't really need the heated bed too much with PLA plastic. And then we're going to leave the rest of this stuff just how it is, although you will notice there are some things in here like the retraction distance, the retraction speed, things like that, that you will want to take note of because you may come back and change those later. Although I'm getting pretty good prints from this, so I don't think we're going to need to. Next is going to be your print speed, and right now we are printing at 50 millimeters per second. That is a little bit on, well, it's right in the middle. This machine can easily do 75 millimeters a second, but again, as with the layer height, the faster you print the model, the less the quality is going to shine through at the end. So you want to find a nice balance between a decent print speed and a good print quality. 50 millimeters per second is a good place to start for PLA. This other stuff we are just going to kind of leave alone because it's already set. You want to make sure with PLA that print cooling is on. So that fan is on and it's at 100%. You'll notice that I sliced this model and I did not turn on support yet, so we are going to do that. We are going to have to reslice it here. And since I changed a setting, my preview went away. So let's go to generate support. And we can talk about, now it's giving me all my support options. I don't need to change those either. It'll calculate it pretty well. Build plate adhesion, there are 3 options: a brim, a skirt, or a raft. That's basically going to help with certain things with adhering to the bed. So if you're making a model that is square on the bottom, you're going to want to use a brim because it's going to print lines outward around the corners that will keep those corners plumb to the bed and they won't lift up or start to warp on you. The base of this object is round, so I could get away with a skirt. That's my normal choice. This time I think I will go with the skirt, so we'll just click on that. A raft is going to be basically a solid sheet of plastic underneath the model that ends up between the bed and your model, making the model easier to remove, and the raft comes off pretty easily as well. So those can be very useful, but we're just going to stick with the skirt for now. Then you'll notice the dual extrusion. We're not going to mess with that because the Ender 3 V2 only has one head on it at the moment, and there are some mesh fix options, print sequence options, some special modes, and experimental. We don't need to mess with those. So we're going to slice, and we will take a look at this preview. I will show you all about the shell thickness we were talking about and the infill that we were talking about as well. So here we are. The file has sliced, and as you can see up top here, I am in preview mode. I've left prepare mode, and there's this handy little bar over here. Let's close that, just get it out of the way. And it tells you, alright, this is my layer number. I'm at the top layer, and there are 450 layers. So as I scroll downward through this, you're going to see it scroll downward through the model. It's going to tell you what layer it's on, and you can actually zoom in here. Maybe, if I can figure out where I'm going. Too far. There we go. Oh, come on, come back. There we go. Okay, so you can see the star-shaped patterns in here. Those are the infill. Okay. Then these 2 green lines and the 1 red line on the outer perimeter, that is the shell. So if I increase the shell layers, you're going to get an extra green line, and the outer skin, this outside layer, the last layer of the shell on the outside, that is the perimeter wall, and it is also known as the skin. So that's going to stay red no matter how you slice it. If you change the infill pattern, it will show you a different pattern in here. It'll show you exactly how it's going to plot the G-code. So basically, if I come down to the bottom layer, you'll see this other slider down here, which is all the way at the end. Okay, so this is the current layer that we're looking at right now. So right now, looking at layer 1, the very first part of the print, if we hit play, it will show us exactly how our tool head is going to draw the plastic to make the model. We can scroll up through, and we can scroll back and watch it print some infill as well. So you can kind of get an idea of what the process looks like, and it is going to print exactly in that pattern. It's a representation of the G-code, that file we were talking about that it's going to use for output. So basically, I'm going to save this file now, and I'm going to hit save to file. And if you insert the micro USB card, the micro SD card into the USB card that comes with the printer, into your printer right now, you will see this change to save to micro or save to USB. So you'll click that, you will name your file and you will save it. Then you can take that card over to your printer, pop it in, and print it. And that's basically it, folks. So if you'd like to see more of these videos, don't forget to hit that subscribe button down below. Leave a comment in the comment section. Let me know exactly what you're looking to see. And hit that notification bell. You get notified every time we drop a video. And we do a lot of 3D printing videos on the Technivorous channel. I do a lot of 3D printer reviews, as well as covering pretty much every release version of Cura for, well, pretty much since 3.6, I believe. So I do a lot of Cura coverage, a lot of tutorials on how to use your slicer, a lot of things that go a lot more in depth, as well as a whole playlist called Cura Settings in 5 minutes or less that covers each of the individual settings you just saw in depth and a lot more detail. So definitely check that out, and we will see you in the next video. Technivorous out. Well, that's it, guys. That's going to wrap up this video. If you've noticed the shirt, the merch is available. Go ahead and check out the Teespring merch link down below. It won't be available on a channel store until I reach 10,000 subscribers, and so far I am just about to hit 5,000. So it'll be a little while, a couple more months before you see this on the actual channel, but they are available now. I have a couple other designs. Feel free to pop over there and check them out, and know that any purchase through the Teespring site definitely helps to promote our site here and increase the channel's ability to make videos in the future. So we appreciate all your support. Don't forget to check out the Teespring link, check out our Patreon link, leave a like on this video, and hit that subscribe button because we have a lot more coming at you in the coming days.